privacy. All right, now we're going to get into domain 4. Now, do not worry. I want to be very clear about what this domain is and what it's not. You're not about to learn how to code. You're not expected to write a whole damn program or create an application. You are learning really simple how to understand programming concepts on a concept level, vocabulary, logic, and classification. Now, on the next slide, I want to go through some different categories of languages, right? So we got interpreted, we got compiled, we got scripting, we got markup, we got assembly, and we got query language. So interpreted is kind of like imagine having a live translator at a conference and they translating every sentence in real time. Every time somebody says something, the translator translates it. All right. So it's executed line by line when you're actually running it. It's a little bit slower, but it's flexible and it's really easy to test it. Now, compiled is more like imagine you translating an entire book, an entire encyclopedia before you actually publish it. So it converts the machine code before execution. Has faster performance, but it requires a compilation or a step to actually compile everything together. Now, scripting, long story short, is for automating tasks. And it's often interpreted and is used by IT pros, automation, and administration. Now, markup defines structure and presentation of content. It's not necessarily executable and it doesn't execute logic. It literally just describes the data. Now, I still want to go a little bit deeper in this, but I want to actually give you an example as well. There was a ransomware attack called I Wanna Cry, and it actually devastated the UK's National Health Service in 2017. IT professionals use PowerShell scripting to rapidly identify infected systems across the network. Scripting knowledge was the difference between containing an outbreak in months, years, to just a few hours, right? So, low level language assembly is direct communication with the hardware, human readable form of machine code. And a lot of times you're going to find that in embedded systems. Now, any query is it's a fancy way to say question, and it's going to be dealing with databases. So if you ask a database a question, and you want to do something with a database, it's going to be using a query language. So the query language is able to retrieve, insert, update, and delete data from databases. Next up, we're going to talk about different data types. So you got data types, programming language or concepts, logic, and organization. So CHAR or character is a single character. A, 5, exclamation point, pound sign. String is a sequence of characters. Integer is just a whole number, no decimals. Float is decimal numbers. Boolean is true or false, yes or no, on and off. All right. So let's talk about a Boolean and a security example. Every authentication check in computing is a Boolean operation. Is the password correct? Yes or no, true or false. Allow access, deny access. Okay. Now, when you come into programming concepts, you got a variable. So it's name, storage location that holds an actual value that can change. Age 25. Once Rob gets 26, I can change that to 26, right? Constant, like a variable, but its value can never change. It is constant. Once you set it, that's what it is. An array is a collection of items stored in a single variable. Function is a reusable block of code that performs a specific task. An object is simply just a bundle of data, properties, and actions. Now, logic and organization. Pseudocode is plain language description of code logic before writing actual code. It's like a planning tool, right? So it was like you writing a story, writing a diary, writing everything out. Then you got a flow chart, which is going to be a visual representation of what the code is going to actually do once we build it and once we start executing. Then you got branching. If this happens, do this. A code takes different paths based on conditions. If it does this, then you do this. If it does that, then you do this, right? It's pretty much step after step after step. Then you got looping. It repeats a block of code for each item in a list while the condition that you set is still true. So an example for looping, right? When when IT admin writes a script to check the disk usage of 1,000 devices, right, or 1,000 servers, a loop is what makes that possible in 50 lines of code as opposed to 50,000 because it's going to be a loop. If this is true, then do that. He just keeps on repeating the condition, right? Then last but not least, you got a OOP, which is an object oriented form of organization. So it organizes code into objects with properties and methods. Classes are blueprints or objects. So let me ask you a quick question. Which data type holds only true or false values? 3, 2, 1. Boolean. All right, so let's put a question up on the screen and see how you guys do. A developer needs to store a person's first name, last name, and the number of times they have logged in. They want to use the most appropriate data type for each value. Which combination correctly matches each piece of data to its appropriate data type? 3, 2, 1. So hopefully you guys got this right. So string, integer. So A is wrong. You can't store a name as an integer. Integer is only whole numbers, right? Then float actually implies decimal precision. Login counts don't have decimals. Then last but not least, Boolean is only true or false. None of these values are true or false. Make sense? And I want to tell you exactly what the hell you need to do on test day. So I'm going to give you a strategy to turn all this knowledge that we just learned into a passing score on exam day. The process of elimination is your best friend. Even when you don't know the answer, you almost always know, hey, that ain't it. I don't know what the answer is, but I know that one is not it. So cross out any clearly wrong answers. Often you can get, you can scratch out at least two of the obvious, okay, I know it's not that, right? And then worst kind of worse, you can do a coin flip in between the last two, right? Hopefully you know exactly what the hell the answer is, but just make sure that you don't know. That you don't pick, one of the answers you know it's not. Also, you got to watch for CompTIA's language on the actual exam. The words most, best, fastest, cheapest, best, first thing, last thing. Make sure that you are paying attention to those things. Also, make sure that you're paying attention to multiple answers. Some questions if they're multiple choice and it has multiple answers. So if it says choose all that apply, choose all the ones that apply, please. All right. Also manage your time, man. 70 questions, 60 minutes. That means that you got about 50 seconds per question. If a question is taking you more than a minute and a half, flag it and come back to it. Don't let just one hard ass question tank, the 10 easy ones that may be after it. Okay. Also, take at least, I would say, 5 to 10 full practice tests before you go through the exam. Not to see if you pass, but it's really just to see and identify what am I the weakest at, right? If you score a 60 on security questions and a 90 on networking, then your ass need to be paying attention to security because you already got networking. And if you need a practice question or anything like that, we have a full exams simulator in our IT for beginners program. And we also have exam simulator that can help you for A plus, Net plus, or a security plus. And remember, you need a 650. That's all you need, man. But this all you need is a 650 out of 900. That's about 72%. And you can miss 20 questions and still pass. You ain't got to be perfect. You just need to be sufficient to pass this, build your confidence, and do what you need to do. Don't overthink it. Your first instinct is usually right. And if you're taking it at home or if you go into an exam center, just be prepared. If you're physically going somewhere, depending on where you live, if you're in a major city, Houston, Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, a place that gets crazy ass traffic, leave early because the last thing you want to do is be rushing, trying to get there, and just, be in a cool, calm environment. So congratulations, man. You just finished the complete course. This is what you need to do right now. Whatever notes you have, Whatever domains you're weakest at, you need to rewatch those domains. Review all the domains where it was unclear or if you got any of the questions wrong. If you're super serious about starting a tech career, learning all the fundamentals of IT, and passing this certification in 7 days, go over to itmasterkey.com now, passtechcerts.com, and enroll into our IT for Beginners program. We guarantee that you can pass this certification in 7 days. This is what you need to do if you really are ready to win. Last but not least, at least comment done. If you made it all the way to the end of this, I'm proud of you. Comment done. Tell me that you completed the course. I'm going to read every comment. Let me know what you got going on, where you're from, if this was helpful, if this was valuable, what other courses would you like to see? Also, make sure we got an entire playlist with over 100 videos right here on YouTube. Look at our IT for Beginners playlist. Don't wait. Go watch all those other damn videos that we have. But if you really are ready to stop doing this on your own, if you're really ready to learn from me and my team and get the same wins, the same tutelage, the same shit that you need to really make this happen and start getting certified, go ahead over to passtechcerts.com. You can enroll into our IT for Beginners program, and you can pass in 7 days. If this free stuff is valuable to you, just imagine what you're going to get once you invest in yourself. Other than that, I was more than happy to help you pass this exam. I hope it was valuable for you, and I'll see you in class.